In a quiet suburban neighborhood, an elderly woman named Ethel lived alone in a modest single-story home. At 87 years old, Ethel had grown frail and relied on a wheelchair to get around. Her granddaughter Jessica, who lived nearby, visited often to help care for her. One afternoon, Jessica arrived at Ethel's house for their regular visit. As she approached the front door, she heard a loud crash from inside followed by her grandmother's cries. Rushing in, Jessica found Ethel lying on the floor next to her overturned wheelchair, holding her hip in pain. Jessica immediately called an ambulance. At the hospital, doctors determined Ethel had broken her hip in the fall. She would need surgery and extensive rehab. Jessica felt terrible, wondering how this could have happened. Ethel had fallen out of her wheelchair a couple times before, but never this badly. The doctor mentioned that it's actually quite common for elderly patients, especially those with dementia. Over the following weeks, Jessica stayed by her grandmother's side as she recovered from the hip surgery. Ethel seemed disoriented and kept mentioning how she didn't understand why she fell. It didn't make sense to Jessica either. She had bought Ethel that wheelchair herself and made sure it was sturdy and stable. Something didn't add up. Once Ethel was discharged and settled back at home with the help of in-home nurses, Jessica decided to investigate further. She purchased a set of small hidden cameras and, with Ethel's permission, placed them discreetly around the home in the living room, hallway, and bedroom. If Ethel fell again, maybe the footage would provide some clues as to the cause. Just 2 days later, Jessica got an alert on her phone from one of the cameras. Heart racing, she checked the live feed. To her shock, she saw the nurse roughly grabbing Ethel's arm and yelling at her angrily. Ethel looked terrified. The nurse then purposely tipped Ethel's wheelchair sideways, dumping the frightened woman onto the floor as she cried out. The nurse callously sighed, righted the empty wheelchair and slouched down on the couch, ignoring Ethel's pleas for help as she laid crumpled on the ground. Shaking with rage, Jessica called the police and raced over to her grandmother's house. She insisted on seeing the camera footage herself. 3 officers arrived and Jessica showed them the horrifying video. They arrested the abusive nurse on the spot. EMTs arrived soon after to take Ethel back to the hospital to get checked out. Thankfully, she hadn't been seriously injured this time. But Jessica was heartsick seeing the bruises on her grandmother's frail limbs. How long had this abuse been going on? Over the next few days, Jessica stayed with Ethel around the clock, determined to keep her safe. Police reviewed the full camera footage and discovered that the same nurse had purposely caused Ethel's previous falls as well. She would get frustrated with Ethel moving too slowly or soiling herself, and take out that anger by dumping the elderly woman on the ground. It was sickening. As the story hit the local news, Jessica started getting calls from other families in the area who had also hired that same in-home nurse company. Many reported similar experiences of neglect and abuse. The company scrambled to do damage control, but the video evidence was damning. They eventually shut down operations as lawsuits and criminal investigations mounted. For Jessica and Ethel, it was a long road to recovery, both physically and emotionally. The trauma of the abuse left Ethel even more frail and anxious. But with her granddaughter's devoted care and the support of a reputable new caregiving team, she slowly regained her strength and spirit. Jessica was determined not to fail her grandmother again. Looking back, Jessica was so grateful she had trusted her instincts that something was wrong with Ethel's falls. Catching the abuse on camera provided the proof they needed to put a stop to the nurse's cruelty and keep other vulnerable seniors safe. But it also revealed the heartbreaking reality that elder abuse is far too common, often at the hands of those entrusted to provide care. Jessica became an advocate, working with local agencies to improve vetting and monitoring of in-home aides. She spoke out about her family's experience to raise awareness. Though it was painful to recount, she knew Ethel's story could make a difference. Today, Ethel is doing much better. She still needs the wheelchair and round-the-clock care. But with a compassionate new nurse and frequent visits from Jessica and the rest of their tight-knit family, she feels safe and loved in her little home. The hidden cameras still keep a watchful eye, but more than that, Ethel knows her family is looking out for her, no matter what. She's a survivor, and her story is a testament to the unbreakable bond between a grandmother and granddaughter, even in the face of unspeakable cruelty. Their love revealed the shocking truth, and together, they found justice, healing, and hope for a better future. As the criminal case against the abusive nurse moved forward, Jessica faced a new challenge in finding reliable care for her grandmother. Ethel's ordeal had left her fearful and mistrustful of strangers, and Jessica couldn't blame her. She knew she needed to find a caregiver who not only had the necessary skills and experience, but also a compassionate heart and gentle demeanor to put Ethel at ease. After extensive research and interviews, Jessica finally settled on a small, family-run agency with a stellar reputation. She met personally with the owner, a kindly older woman named Martha who had been in the business for decades. Martha was appalled when Jessica recounted what had happened to Ethel, and assured her that all of their caregivers were thoroughly vetted and held to the highest standards of professionalism and compassion. When the new caregiver, a soft-spoken middle-aged woman named Olivia, arrived for her first shift, Jessica could immediately see a difference in Ethel's demeanor. Instead of shrinking back in fear, Ethel seemed curious and even a bit hopeful as Olivia gently introduced herself and asked about Ethel's favorite hobbies and memories. Over the next few weeks, Jessica watched in amazement as Olivia's patience and kindness slowly drew Ethel out of her shell. For the first time in months, Jessica heard her grandmother laugh out loud at one of Olivia's silly jokes. Ethel started looking forward to her daily walks in the garden with Olivia, pointing out her favorite flowers and sharing stories of her late husband. Olivia listened intently, making Ethel feel heard and valued. When Ethel had accidents or difficult days, Olivia never once lost her cool, always responding with understanding and reassurance. As Ethel continued to heal emotionally, her physical strength also began to improve. With Olivia's encouragement and gentle assistance, Ethel started doing her physical therapy exercises every day, determined to regain as much mobility and independence as possible. Jessica cheered her grandmother on every step of the way, marveling at her resilience. Inspired by her grandmother's progress, Jessica threw herself into her new role as an advocate for elder justice. She partnered with local senior centers and advocacy groups to host informational workshops on recognizing and reporting signs of abuse. She lobbied state lawmakers to strengthen regulations on in-home care agencies and increase funding for adult protective services. At first, Jessica was nervous about public speaking, but every time she shared her grandmother's story, she saw the impact it had on her audience. Many came up to her afterwards in tears, sharing their own experiences with elder abuse and neglect. Some were inspired to start support groups or volunteer with local agencies. Jessica realized that by speaking out, she wasn't just helping Ethel, she was becoming part of a movement to protect and empower seniors everywhere. As the months passed, the hidden cameras in Ethel's home became less and less necessary. Olivia's consistent loving care and the support of their family had restored Ethel's sense of security and trust. Jessica knew there would still be good days and bad days, but she no longer felt the gnawing fear that her grandmother was suffering in silence. One warm autumn afternoon, Jessica arrived at Ethel's house to find her grandmother and Olivia sitting together on the porch swing, sipping tea and watching the leaves fall. Ethel's eyes lit up when she saw Jessica, and she beckoned her granddaughter over to join them. As Jessica settled in beside her grandmother, Ethel took her hand and smiled. "You know, my dear, I've been thinking," Ethel said, her voice soft but clear. "I spent so many months feeling scared and alone, even when that awful nurse wasn't there. I thought I was a burden, that I didn't deserve to be treated with kindness and respect. But you never gave up on me. You fought for me, even when I couldn't fight for myself. And you brought Olivia into our lives, who has shown me that there are still so many good people in this world. I don't know what I did to deserve a granddaughter like you, but I thank God for you every day." Jessica felt tears welling up in her eyes as she squeezed her grandmother's hand. "Grandma, you deserve the world. You've always been there for me, and I will always be there for you. We're a team, you and me. And now we have Olivia on our team too. Together, we can face anything." Olivia smiled and nodded, patting Ethel's knee affectionately. "Your granddaughter is right, Ethel. You are an incredible woman, and it's an honor to be a part of your life. I know we still have challenges ahead, but we'll face them together, one day at a time." As the three women sat together, chatting and laughing as the sun began to set, Jessica felt a sense of peace wash over her. The road to recovery had been long and difficult, but moments like these made it all worthwhile. She knew that her grandmother's story was far from over. There were still chapters to be written, memories to be made, and battles to be fought. But no matter what the future held, they would face it together, bound by the unbreakable power of love, resilience, and the courage to speak the truth. As the leaves turned from gold to brown and winter settled over the quiet suburb, Ethel continued to thrive under Olivia's care. Her physical strength improved to the point where she could take short walks around the block with Olivia's support, much to Jessica's delight. But even more impressive was the transformation in Ethel's spirit. She smiled more easily, laughed more freely, and seemed to take genuine joy in the simple pleasures of each day. One snowy morning, Jessica arrived at her grandmother's house to find Ethel and Olivia in the kitchen, surrounded by flour and mixing bowls. They were both giggling like schoolgirls as they attempted to roll out a pie crust, their aprons dusted with flour handprints. Jessica couldn't remember the last time she had seen her grandmother so carefree and happy. "What's all this?" Jessica asked, grinning as she surveyed the messy scene. Ethel looked up, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "We're baking a pie for the church holiday bazaar. Olivia found my old recipe box and convinced me to dust off my baking skills. I'm afraid we may be a bit out of practice." Olivia chuckled, wiping a streak of flour from her cheek. "Don't let her fool you, Jessica. Your grandmother is a natural in the kitchen. I'm just here for moral support and taste testing." Jessica felt a surge of warmth in her chest as she watched the two women work together, chatting and laughing like old friends. It was moments like these that made all the hard work and advocacy worthwhile. Seeing her grandmother not just surviving, but truly living and finding joy in her days, was the greatest gift Jessica could ask for. As the pie baked, filling the house with the warm scent of cinnamon and apples, Jessica settled in at the kitchen table with Ethel and Olivia to catch up on the latest news. Ethel was eager to hear about Jessica's work with the Elder Justice Coalition, and listened intently as her granddaughter recounted the progress they had made in raising awareness and pushing for legislative changes. "I'm so proud of you, my dear," Ethel said, reaching across the table to pat Jessica's hand. "You've taken a terrible situation and turned it into something powerful and good. I know it hasn't been easy, but you're making a real difference in the world." Jessica felt a lump form in her throat at her grandmother's words. "I couldn't have done it without you, Grandma. Your strength and courage inspired me every step of the way. You're the real hero in this story." Ethel shook her head, a soft smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "I'm no hero, Jessica. I'm just a stubborn old woman who refused to let cruelty and fear define my life. And I had a pretty amazing granddaughter by my side to remind me of that every day." As the timer dinged, signaling that the pie was ready, Olivia stood up and retrieved it from the oven, filling the kitchen with the mouth-watering aroma of freshly baked goodness. She set it on the counter to cool, then turned to Jessica and Ethel with a mischievous grin. "You know, ladies, I think this calls for a celebration. How about we dig into this pie a little early, before we take it to the church? Just a small slice each, to make sure it's up to snuff." Ethel laughed, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "I like the way you think, Olivia. Just don't tell the pastor we snitched a taste before the bazaar." As Olivia cut into the golden crust, steam rising from the bubbling filling, Jessica felt a sense of contentment wash over her. Here, in her grandmother's cozy kitchen, surrounded by the warmth of family and friends, the troubles of the past seemed to melt away like the snow outside. They had weathered the storm together, and emerged stronger, wiser, and more grateful for the simple joys of life. As they savored their slices of warm apple pie, Jessica knew that there would still be challenges ahead. The fight for elder justice was far from over, and Ethel's health would always require careful attention and support. But in this moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was the love they shared, the memories they created, and the unbreakable bond that had carried them through the darkest of times. With a smile, Jessica reached for another forkful of pie, feeling the sweetness burst on her tongue like a promise of better days to come. No matter what the future held, she knew that she and her grandmother would face it together, one small moment of joy at a time. And that was a truth worth celebrating, today and always. As winter melted into spring, Ethel and Jessica settled into a comfortable routine with Olivia's help. Ethel continued to gain strength, both physically and emotionally, and began to venture out more often, attending church functions and senior center events with Olivia by her side. Jessica watched with pride as her grandmother blossomed, forming new friendships and rekindling old ones. One sunny afternoon, Jessica arrived at Ethel's house for their weekly visit, only to find her grandmother and Olivia huddled around the kitchen table, poring over a scrapbook. Curiosity piqued, Jessica joined them, peering over their shoulders at the yellowed pages filled with black and white photos and carefully preserved mementos. "What's all this?" Jessica asked, gently running a finger over a faded photograph of a young couple in their wedding finery. Ethel looked up, her eyes misty with nostalgia. "Olivia found this old scrapbook when she was helping me clean out the attic. It's from my early days with your grandfather, back when we were just starting our life together. I haven't looked at these pictures in years." Jessica smiled, settling into a chair beside her grandmother. "Tell me about them, Grandma. I want to hear all the stories." And so, with Olivia's gentle prompting and Jessica's rapt attention, Ethel began to recount the tales of her youth, her voice growing stronger and more animated with each passing memory. She spoke of the day she met Jessica's grandfather at a church picnic, how he had asked her to dance and then promptly stepped on her toes. She giggled as she described their courtship, the love notes he would leave in her mailbox and the wildflowers he would bring her on their walks in the park. As Ethel turned the pages, the memories continued to flow, painting a vivid picture of a life well lived. There were photos of their wedding day, their first little house on Oak Street, the birth of Jessica's father. Ethel's eyes sparkled as she recounted the joys and sorrows, the laughter and the tears that had shaped her journey. Jessica listened intently, marveling at the strength and resilience that had carried her grandmother through so many decades of life. She had always known that Ethel was a remarkable woman, but hearing her stories firsthand, seeing the love and light that still shone in her eyes after all these years, filled Jessica with a newfound sense of awe and admiration. As the afternoon wore on and the scrapbook neared its final pages, Ethel paused, her hand resting on a photograph of herself and Jessica's grandfather in their golden years, smiling contentedly at the camera. She traced the outline of his face with a gentle finger, a wistful smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "You know," she said softly, "there were times after your grandfather passed when I didn't think I could go on without him. He was my rock, my partner in everything. But looking back now, I realize that he never really left me. He's here, in these memories, in the love we shared, in the family we built together. And that's a legacy that will live on long after I'm gone." Jessica reached out and took her grandmother's hand, squeezing it gently. "Grandma, your legacy is so much more than just memories. It's the strength, the kindness, the love that you've passed down to all of us. It's the way you've faced every challenge with grace and courage, and come out stronger on the other side. You're an inspiration to me, and to everyone who knows you." Olivia nodded in agreement, her eyes shining with admiration. "Ethel, you are a true treasure. Getting to know you, to be a part of your life and your family, has been one of the greatest joys of my career. You have so much wisdom and love to share with the world, and I feel honored to be a witness to it." Ethel smiled, her eyes brimming with tears of gratitude. "I am so blessed," she said softly, "to have such wonderful people in my life. Jessica, Olivia, you've given me a second chance at happiness, a reason to keep living and loving and making new memories. I don't know what I did to deserve such love, but I thank God for it every day." As the three women embraced, the scrapbook laying open on the table before them, Jessica felt a sense of deep peace settle over her heart. In the face of all the pain and darkness they had endured, the love and light that bound them together shone even brighter. It was a testament to the unbreakable strength of the human spirit, the power of compassion and care to heal even the deepest wounds. And as they sat together, sharing stories and laughter and tears, Jessica knew that this was the true legacy of her grandmother's life. Not just the memories captured in faded photographs and yellowed pages, but the love that lived on in the hearts of all those she had touched. A love that would continue to grow and flourish, long after the final chapter had been written. As the days grew longer and the flowers in Ethel's garden began to bloom, Jessica found herself spending more and more time at her grandmother's house. With Olivia's help, Ethel had begun to tackle some of the long-neglected projects around the home, sorting through old boxes, donating unused items, and freshening up the decor. Jessica was happy to lend a hand, enjoying the opportunity to spend quality time with her grandmother while creating a more comfortable and welcoming space. One afternoon, as they were sorting through a dusty box of old linens, Jessica stumbled upon a beautiful handmade quilt, its colors still vibrant despite years of storage. She held it up to the light, admiring the intricate stitching and the delicate floral pattern. "Grandma, this is gorgeous," she exclaimed, running her fingers over the soft fabric. "Where did it come from?" Ethel looked up from her own box, her eyes widening in recognition. "Oh my," she breathed, reaching out to touch the quilt with reverent fingers. "I haven't seen this in years. It was a wedding gift from your great-grandmother, handmade with love." Jessica carefully unfolded the quilt, draping it over the back of the couch. "It's too beautiful to keep hidden away in a box," she said firmly. "We should display it, make it a part of your home again." Ethel hesitated for a moment, then nodded, a smile spreading across her face. "You're right, my dear. It's time to bring some of these old treasures back to life. This quilt holds so many memories, so much love. It deserves to be seen and appreciated." Over the next few days, Jessica and Olivia worked together to incorporate the quilt and other meaningful items into Ethel's home decor. They hung old family photos on the walls, displayed cherished knickknacks on the shelves, and draped the quilt over the back of Ethel's favorite armchair. Slowly but surely, the house began to feel like a true reflection of Ethel's life and personality, a warm and inviting space filled with love and history. As they worked, Ethel shared more stories of her past, pointing out the significance of each item and the memories it held. Jessica and Olivia listened with rapt attention, marveling at the richness of Ethel's life experiences and the wisdom she had gained along the way. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, admiring their handiwork, Ethel turned to Jessica with a serious expression on her face. "Jessica, my dear," she said softly, "there's something I've been meaning to talk to you about." Jessica felt a flicker of concern, but nodded encouragingly. "Of course, Grandma. What is it?" Ethel took a deep breath, then reached out to take Jessica's hand in her own. "I've been thinking a lot about the future lately," she said slowly, "about what will happen when I'm no longer here. I know it's not something we like to talk about, but it's important to me that you know my wishes." Jessica felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but blinked them back, focusing on her grandmother's words. "I'm listening, Grandma," she said softly, squeezing Ethel's hand in reassurance. Ethel smiled, her eyes filled with love and gratitude. "I want you to know," she said firmly, "that when my time comes, I want to be here, in this house, surrounded by the people and things I love. I don't want to spend my last days in a hospital or a nursing home, hooked up to machines and monitors. I want to be at peace, in the home that holds so many precious memories. Jessica nodded, her heart aching at the thought of losing her grandmother, but understanding the importance of honoring her wishes. I promise, Grandma, she said softly, I'll do everything in my power to make sure that happens. You'll be here, in your own home, with all of us by your side. Olivia, who had been listening quietly from her seat across the room, spoke up then, her voice gentle but firm. Ethel, she said, I want you to know that I'll be here too, for as long as you need me. Not just as your caregiver, but as your friend. I'll do everything I can to make sure your final days are filled with comfort, love, and peace. Ethel's eyes filled with tears, and she reached out to take Olivia's hand as well. Thank you, she whispered, both of you. I feel so blessed to have such wonderful people in my life. I know that, no matter what happens, I'll be surrounded by love. As the three women sat together, hands clasped in a circle of love and support, Jessica felt a sense of bittersweet acceptance wash over her. She knew that the road ahead would not be easy, that there would be moments of grief and sorrow alongside the joy and laughter. But she also knew that, with the strength of their bond and the power of their love, they would face whatever came together, one day at a time. And so, as the setting sun cast a warm glow over the living room, Jessica let herself be present in the moment, savoring the precious time she had with her grandmother and the incredible woman who had become like a second family to them both. There would be time for tears and goodbyes later. For now, there was only love, and the unbreakable ties that bound them together, now and always. As summer bloomed in all its glory, Ethel insisted on hosting a family gathering in her backyard garden. She had always taken great pride in her flowers and vegetables, and with Olivia's help, the garden had flourished into a true oasis of color and life. Jessica was thrilled to see her grandmother so energized and excited, buzzing with plans and preparations for the upcoming celebration. On the day of the gathering, Jessica arrived early to help with the setup, carrying trays of food and arranging tables and chairs under the dappled shade of the old oak tree. Olivia had already been hard at work, stringing up twinkling lights and colorful lanterns, transforming the garden into an enchanted wonderland. As family members began to arrive, bearing dishes and desserts to share, the air filled with laughter and chatter, the joyful sounds of loved ones reuniting after far too long. Jessica watched with a full heart as Ethel greeted each guest with a warm hug and a radiant smile, her eyes sparkling with happiness and love. Throughout the afternoon, as the sun dipped lower in the sky and the fireflies began to emerge, Jessica marveled at the resilience and strength of her remarkable grandmother. Here was a woman who had faced unspeakable cruelty and trauma, who had every reason to retreat from the world in fear and bitterness. And yet, she had chosen to embrace life with open arms, to find joy and purpose in the simple pleasures of family, friendship, and the beauty of the natural world. As the evening wore on and the guests began to depart, Jessica found herself sitting beside Ethel on the old porch swing, watching the last rays of sunlight paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Olivia had volunteered to clean up, insisting that Ethel deserved to rest and enjoy the peaceful moment. For a long while, the two women sat in comfortable silence, savoring the sweet scent of honeysuckle on the warm breeze. Then, Ethel turned to Jessica, her expression thoughtful and tender. You know, she said softly, there was a time not so long ago when I thought I would never feel joy again. When the pain and the fear seemed too heavy to bear, and the darkness felt like it would swallow me whole. Jessica felt her heart constrict, remembering those terrible days when her grandmother's spirit had seemed all but extinguished. She reached out and took Ethel's hand, squeezing it gently in silent support. Ethel smiled, her eyes misty with emotion. But then, she continued, I realized something important. I realized that the darkness only wins if we let it. If we allow it to steal our joy, our hope, our love for life. And I refuse to let that happen. She took a deep breath, gazing out at the garden, now aglow with the soft light of the lanterns. I choose to focus on the beauty in this world, she said firmly. on the love and the kindness that surrounds me, even in the darkest of times. I choose to be grateful for every moment, every breath, every precious gift of life." Jessica felt tears streaming down her cheeks, her heart overflowing with love and admiration for the incredible woman beside her. "Grandma," she whispered, "you are the strongest, most amazing person I have ever known. Your courage, your grace, your unbreakable spirit, they inspire me every single day." Ethel reached out and cupped Jessica's face in her hands, wiping away the tears with gentle fingers. "My sweet girl," she said softly, "don't you see? That courage, that grace, it's inside you too. You have been my rock, my champion, my guiding light through the darkest of storms. You have a heart so full of love and compassion, a spirit so fierce and strong. Never forget that." As the two women embraced, holding each other close as the last light faded from the sky, Jessica felt a sense of peace and purpose settle deep in her soul. She knew that there would still be challenges ahead, that the road of healing and growth was a lifelong journey. But she also knew that, with the love and support of her incredible grandmother and the amazing people who had become like family, she could face anything that lay ahead. And so, as the stars began to twinkle overhead and the soft sounds of Olivia's humming drifted from the kitchen, Jessica closed her eyes and breathed in the sweet, sacred moment. In the embrace of her grandmother's love, in the beauty of the garden and the warmth of the summer night, she had found her true north, her guiding light. And she knew that, no matter what the future held, she would always carry that light with her, shining bright against the darkness, forever and always. As the long, lazy days of summer began to give way to the crisp, colorful beauty of autumn, Jessica found herself reflecting on the incredible journey she and her grandmother had taken together. In just a few short months, they had weathered storms that would have broken weaker spirits, had faced cruelty and heartbreak head-on, and had emerged stronger, wiser, and more deeply connected than ever before. With Olivia's unwavering support and the love of their family and friends, Ethel had blossomed into a new season of life, embracing each day with a sense of joy and purpose that was truly inspiring to behold. She had become a beacon of hope and resilience in their community, sharing her story and her wisdom with anyone who would listen, and inspiring others to find the courage and strength to face their own challenges with grace and determination. Jessica, too, had grown in ways she never could have imagined. Through her tireless advocacy work and her deepening bond with her grandmother, she had discovered a wellspring of compassion, empathy, and fierce, unbreakable love that had transformed her from the inside out. She had learned to trust her instincts, to speak her truth, and to stand up for what was right, even in the face of adversity. As the weeks passed and the leaves began to turn, Jessica and Ethel found themselves spending more and more time together, savoring each precious moment and creating new memories to cherish. They took long, meandering walks through the neighborhood, admiring the vibrant colors of the changing trees and breathing in the crisp, invigorating air. They baked apple pies and pumpkin bread, filling the house with the warm, comforting sense of home and family. And they talked, sharing stories and secrets, hopes and dreams, the quiet confessions of two hearts that had found solace and strength in each other. One evening, as they sat together in the cozy living room, sipping mugs of hot cider and watching the flickering flames of the fireplace, Ethel turned to Jessica with a smile that was both tender and knowing. "My dear," she said softly, "I want you to know how much these past few months have meant to me. How much you have meant to me. You have been my rock, my guiding light, my reason to keep fighting even when the darkness seemed too heavy to bear." Jessica felt her throat tighten with emotion, her eyes stinging with tears of love and gratitude. "Grandma," she whispered, "I feel the same way. You have taught me so much about strength, about resilience, about the power of love to heal even the deepest wounds. I am so grateful for you, for the incredible gift of your presence in my life." Ethel reached out and took Jessica's hand, squeezing it gently. "I know that the road ahead may not always be easy," she said, her voice soft but steady. "I know that there will be moments of doubt, of fear, of sorrow. But I also know that, together, we can face anything that comes our way. That the love we share is stronger than any darkness, any pain, any obstacle that may arise. Jessica nodded, blinking back tears. I know, she said softly. I feel that too. And I promise, Grandma, that no matter what happens, I will always be here for you. I will always fight for you, always love you, always cherish the incredible gift of your life. Ethel smiled, her eyes shining with love and pride. And I will always be here for you, my sweet girl. In this life and beyond, I will always be your guardian angel, your fiercest protector, your most devoted friend. As the two women embraced, holding each other close in the warm, golden glow of the firelight, Jessica felt a sense of peace and wholeness settle deep in her soul. She knew that the journey of healing and growth was far from over, that there would be many more twists and turns, many more moments of challenge and triumph along the way. But she also knew that, with the love and support of her incredible grandmother and the amazing people who had become like family, she had everything she needed to face the future with courage, with hope, and with an unshakable faith in the power of the human spirit to overcome even the darkest of storms. And so, as the night deepened and the stars began to twinkle in the velvet sky, Jessica closed her eyes and breathed in the sweet, sacred moment, feeling the love and the strength of generations flowing through her veins. In the warmth of her grandmother's embrace, in the quiet wisdom of her words, she had found her true north, her guiding light. And she knew that, no matter what the future held, she would always carry that light with her, shining bright against the darkness, a beacon of hope and resilience, now and forever. As the golden days of autumn faded into the crisp, frosty beauty of winter, Jessica and Ethel settled into a new rhythm of life, one that was filled with love, laughter, and the quiet joy of simple, everyday moments. With Olivia's gentle guidance and the support of their family and friends, they navigated the challenges and triumphs of each day with grace and resilience, finding strength and comfort in the unbreakable bond they shared. For Ethel, the winter months brought a sense of peace and contentment that she had never known before. Surrounded by the warmth and love of her home, with her beloved granddaughter and cherished caregiver by her side, she felt a deep sense of gratitude for the incredible journey that had brought her to this moment. She knew that the road ahead would not always be easy, that there would be moments of pain and sorrow, of loss and grief. But she also knew that, with the strength of her faith and the power of the love that surrounded her, she could face anything that lay ahead with courage and hope. As the holidays approached and the world outside turned to a glittering wonderland of snow and ice, Jessica and Ethel spent long, cozy evenings by the fire, sipping hot cocoa and sharing stories of Christmases past. They decorated the house with twinkling lights and shimmering garlands, filling every room with the warm, festive glow of the season. And they welcomed friends and family into their home with open arms, hosting joyful gatherings filled with laughter, love, and the sweet, timeless magic of holiday traditions. For Jessica, the winter months brought a sense of reflection and renewal, a chance to look back on the incredible journey she had taken with her grandmother and to look forward to the new adventures that lay ahead. She knew that the fight for elder justice was far from over, that there was still so much work to be done to protect and empower seniors everywhere. But she also knew that, with the love and support of her incredible network of advocates and allies, she had the strength and the courage to keep pushing forward, to keep shining a light on the dark corners of society and to keep fighting for a world where every person, no matter their age or ability, was treated with the dignity, respect, and compassion they deserved. As the long, dark nights of winter began to give way to the first tentative signs of spring, Jessica and Ethel found themselves looking to the future with a sense of hope and excitement. They knew that the coming months would bring new challenges and new opportunities, new moments of joy and sorrow, of growth and change. But they also knew that, together, they could weather any storm, overcome any obstacle, and emerge stronger, wiser, and more deeply connected than ever before. And so, on a bright, crisp morning in early March, as the sun rose over the shimmering landscape of snow and ice, Jessica and Ethel bundled up in their warmest coats and ventured out into the garden, hand in hand. They walked slowly, savoring the crunch of the frost beneath their feet and the sharp, invigorating bite of the winter air. And as they turned their faces to the sky, feeling the first tentative rays of sunlight on their skin, they knew that they were standing on the threshold of a new beginning, a new chapter in the incredible story of their lives. For Ethel, it was a moment of profound gratitude and joy, a chance to reflect on the incredible journey that had brought her to this moment and to give thanks for the love and the strength that had carried her through even the darkest of times. And for Jessica, it was a moment of hope and determination, a chance to renew her commitment to the fight for justice and compassion, and to draw strength and inspiration from the incredible woman who had taught her the true meaning of courage, resilience, and unconditional love. As the two women stood together in the garden, their hearts full and their spirits soaring, they knew that they were ready to face whatever lay ahead, to embrace the beauty and the challenges of each new day with open hearts and unshakable faith. And as the world around them began to thaw and bloom, as the first green shoots of new life emerged from the frozen ground, they knew that they were standing on the cusp of a new season of hope and possibility, a season of love and renewal that would carry them forward into a future filled with endless promise and boundless joy. And so, hand in hand, heart to heart, Jessica and Ethel stepped out into the shimmering landscape of the garden, ready to face the future together, one brave and beautiful step at a time. For they knew that, no matter what the journey ahead might bring, they had everything they needed to weather any storm, to overcome any challenge, and to emerge victorious in the end. They had the love and the strength of family, the power and the resilience of the human spirit, and the unshakable conviction that, together, they could change the world, one small act of kindness and compassion at a time.